Hey YouTube, this is Wrestling Park Fan 62. Here's my review of SummerSlam 2025. So the first match was Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Now this is interesting because you have Paul Heyman in Bronson and Braun's corner, and you don't entirely know what they're going to do. So you have that for him. And then I loved the potential tsunamis Bronson was going to do multiple times. But Roman Reigns and Jey Uso won. I do think that is the right decision because Roman Reigns is now one of those stars who, when it's time for him to come and show up, no matter if it's Raw or SmackDown, he is a draw. The next match is the Judgment Day versus Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Now, this match was interesting because Alexa and Charlotte just recently became a team, if you want to call them that. But the interesting part about it is we don't know how they feel with each other. So I love the part where Alexa was going to hit, I think it was Roxanne, and then accidentally hit Charlotte. And her face is like, oh. But they got through it, and Alexa hit Roxanne with the sister Abigail to win. Do I think that's the right decision? Yes, because this will be an interesting test for them. The next one is Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross. Now, this one is interesting because with Sami, we don't know what is going to happen as far as what's going to happen, especially with Karrion. But do I think Sami was the right winner in this? Not really, because with the hype Karrion has been getting around him over the past couple of months, it seems like he's really getting a good following behind him. But with that, I think he should have won, even if it was by some shenanigans. The next one is Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill. Now, this one in particular is one of those homegrown talent versus brought in type scenarios, because Tiffany was, trained by the Performance Center, and then Jade Cargill was brought in from AEW, and she's been in WWE for about 2 years now, and honestly has not really improved that much. So I know it's weird because she just won Queen of the Ring about less than 2 months ago. So it's irritating, but I get it. The next one is Randy Orton and Jelly Roll versus Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. Now, I will say this first. I love the heel heat Logan Paul has been getting behind him. Drew has some, but not nearly as much as Logan. And it's funny because on SmackDown last week, he said how, he's an outsider and stuff like that, which is funny because Logan Paul is also an outsider as well. But the only thing I don't agree with was Jelly Roll and Randy Orton losing. Now, the last one for night one was CM Punk versus Gunther. Now, this one was interesting because this sort of had a lot of going into WrestleMania with Jey Uso on it. Maybe not quite as humiliating as Jey Uso was, but it showed how well both work with each other, and how much abuse Punk can take. Now, I loved the finish of it, and then I loved the similar type storyline going back to WrestleMania 40. If you remember WrestleMania 40, what's his name? Damian Priest was, or no, not Damian Priest. I'm sorry. Drew McIntyre was champion for 5 minutes and 43 seconds. This had a similar type feel to it, as Punk was only champion for a short time. Seth Rollins came out on crutches. And he did his typical shenanigans, and then he turned around to look like he was going to go back to the locker room, and he dropped his crutches, and he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase, and with one curb stomp, he became the new Universal Champion. I love that part because it was unpredicted, because he still had up to June of next year, meaning he could have done it at, Survivor Series in November. He could have done it at the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia next January. He could have done it at WrestleMania next year. It is an interesting decision, but we'll see where they go with it. Now let's go with night 2. Now, the opening match was Naomi versus Rhea versus Io. The first thing I want to say is Rhea and Io are about on the same level. And it's interesting because they both fought each other several times going back to NXT. So, and then you had Naomi, who pinned Rhea. So I do think this is going to lead to something going into Clash in Paris here in about 4 weeks. So we have to see where that goes. Next one is the TLC match with the Wyatt 6, DIY, Fraxium, Street Profits, and Motor City Machine Guns. Now, this one looks like a car wreck. You had everything. I love the spot it did with... And I loved how they had the women for each group get involved in some fashion. One of the things that was unique was how Candice LeRae was going to go up and grab the titles for DIY. Who was it? I forgot his name. I got hit and then hit the ladder, and then Candice fell through a ladder onto the ground. So, do I think the Wyatts retaining was the right call? Yes, because this is also their PLE debut. Although I will say this, I would have substituted this match for something like AJ and Dominic Mysterio, as the Wyatts, with their entrance in particular, has a better feel at night or in the dark. So we have that. So the next one is Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch. Now, one of the big things coming out of this match was Becky's new entrance theme. So we have to see where that goes. But I loved how, with this match in particular, it showed both of them's creativity. So there was a spot where Becky zip tied Lyra's hands, and so Lyra was trying to figure her way out of it. So there was a botch in it where her hands became free. I sort of wish they used that in some way, but it is what it is. But now it looks like they're setting up something up for Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley. Now, next one is Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu. Now, you sort of knew Solo's group was going to get involved in this in some way. I don't know how Jacob and Jimmy Uso is going to deal with Talatonga, I think that's his name. But it was a good match, and I'm interested where it goes. Next one is AJ Styles versus Dominic Mysterio. Now, the first thing I loved about this match was AJ's tribute to Eddie Guerrero. So he came out in a low rider and stuff like that. Although it would have been unique if AJ came out to Eddie's theme or something like that. But also how AJ wore similar colors to Eddie in, I think it was 2005. And then the last one is John Cena versus Cody Rhodes in a street fight. Now, before someone says it, you're not going to see a lot of blood in a street fight in WWE just because of, for one, the people behind the company, TKO, as well as all of the corporate sponsors that they have with these shows. But for what it was a great match. I loved how they kind of went into places not many people typically go unless you're part of WWE in some fashion. Now, the thing a lot of people are talking about is the ending. And that's where essentially Cody Rhodes won. And John Cena was in the ring just, I guess, being like, okay, what do I do now? When all of a sudden Brock Lesnar's music hits. And the thing I loved was the reaction with Michael Cole and Wade Barrett when they heard that and they saw him come out. And I loved how they didn't beep out when Michael Cole said, holy shit. But overall, with SummerSlam, it was a good show. Although keeping certain people off the show, that's the thing I don't agree with. So we have to see where this goes. Coming out of SummerSlam, going into Clash in Paris.